So yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of sick and tired of playing Man United. I want to finally win the Premier League and put everything to bed. Episode 85, and yet another incredibly important match against Manchester United. 48 points for us going into the new year, into the January transfer window. 45 for them. And, well, we're locking horns again. Last episode, we of course beat Chelsea 1-0, beat Liverpool 1-0, and the only game you guys missed really was this 5-0 thumping of Aston Villa. Now we were quite fortunate because we had to play Aston Villa on the 28th, and of course fixture congestion over the winter period is really hard. But you look at Man United's side, and condition wise they're not in as much of a good state. Now we know they beat Chelsea 5-0 because we saw it in the previous episode, but they had the Manchester derby at home on the 28th, whilst we were playing Aston Villa, kind of like bottom of the league. So they kind of had to play a strong side. The fact that some of the United players are kind of tired gives us a bit of an advantage. In terms of the Aston Villa game, it was an interesting one because I went into it wanting to play youngsters, wanting, to rotate our squad to make sure what I consider our better squad is nice and fit for the Man United game. So we ended up playing Varela right back, Kunz in centre midfield, Barbosa up front, and of course we subbed on the likes of Sousa and Morales at half time. But I think what was really satisfying was the fact that Barbosa grabbed 2 goals. It was nice for Barbosa, to get on the score sheet not once but twice, and I'm starting to wonder whether it's a sign that he should play against Man United, because as we know, the goal against Man United, or loved a goal against Man United, and then went through a period where he forgot what the hell a goal was, and now he seems to be getting on the score sheet again. So without further ado, this could be an incredibly important game for us. Let's go to Ewood Park and hopefully get the win against Man United. And just before we go, interesting point that was actually brought up by someone from BBC Radio Lancashire was that we are apparently unbeaten against Man United in the last 6 outings. Now that kind of upsets me because it kind of reminds me of that. We took the lead, we were unbeaten, but being unbeaten isn't good enough against a team like Man United. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going into this game all guns are blazing, and I want to put Mourinho and Man United, both of them, in their place. Right then, so Man United, pretty self-explanatory. Good old Mourinho, 4-4-1-1. If they start losing, they'll switch to the 4-2-3-1, even though they are almost practically the same formation. Douglas, man-marking playmaker in Juan Mata. Marcus Rashford actually starts up front, rather than that new regen they bought in, who was meant to replace Morata, and never really got the job done. But to be fair, 14 goals in 19 appearances for Marcus Rashford definitely means he's going to be giving our defence quite a hard time. Now, Man United always seem to kick off with slightly more defensive fullbacks, and then eventually, as the game progresses, Mourinho starts giving them a little bit more freedom. So we're going to basically just counteract that by trying to hold on to the ball, play shorter passing. If we don't give the ball away, they can't really counter-attack us. We're going to stick with IWBs, make sure that they stay conservative and makes counter-attacking a little bit more difficult. Nano's going to start up front because he grabbed a goal against Aston Villa and 2 assists. Barbosa stays on the right-hand side. Like I said, he's a bit of an X-factor against Man United and grabbed 2 goals from the right-hand side against Aston Villa. Piaka comes back in on the left. Rog drops into midfield. And you're probably wondering, well, why am I playing Varela? Well, Varela always seems to do well against the bigger sides, whilst Varjek, his inexperience, I've found, sometimes lets him down. In truth, we're just going to stick to doing what we do. That normally works all right against Man United, as you've probably realised by now, given what the journalist was asking me in the press room. And as always, we always end up tweaking as things come along. And let's hope Saul can get red carded like he did last season in this same tie, which really was kind of the tie which convinced me we were going to win the Premier League last season. But just how that tie was incredibly important, this tie is just as important. And it is always going to be incredibly difficult against a team like Manchester United, with a winger like Hazard and Thomas Kalas there. Good job he was on his toes. because it looked like Man United were about to make it 1-0 already, and 40 seconds in, they've already had 2 corners. Hopefully, we'll defend them all right, though. Paul Pogba looks like he's injured, so I will keep an eye on whether or not they end up subbing him off. The fact that he is, of course, kind of injured, though, means that we can look to tackle him a little bit harder and try and aggravate that injury. It's a bit of a dickhead way to play, but I don't really care at this current point in time. So 37% possession, which is really quite underwhelming for us, given what our possession stats are normally like. But we can also, especially against a team like this, be very, very influential on the counter-attack, given the pace that we've got in our side. Marco Rog, one of them more pacey players, and Alenya, one of them more technical players. Carlos Alenya, 10th goal of the season, and what a match to grab a strike like that in. Steven Gerrard-esque, and just the idea of a Steven Gerrard-esque finish from the edge of the box like that definitely makes the Man United fans shiver in fear. So far, so good. And other than the first few highlights where Man United won a corner or two, we've not really seen anything from them. And if it stays like this, we normally do tend to take the lead against Man United early on in the first half. Our main issue is we can never turn the first goal into 2, and then Man United end up really bringing on the cavalry in the second half. This is where we've got to be careful, though. On the counter-attack, it's how Mourinho's teams play. No idea why our entire back 4 tried to close down one player there. I think that's kind of the match engine having a fit, but we can immediately see that Man United are slowly but surely starting to create opportunities. When you lower the tempo, it doesn't just lower the tempo in terms of how you play, but it reduces the amount of mistakes when you have the ball you might make, because, you know, your players are a little bit calmer, taking it easier, and so on. Augustinson whips the ball in. Callas is going to win the head, and Alenya, as always, is going to pick it up on the edge of the box. I'd rather Callas didn't have the ball out on the right-hand wing, and we played it a little bit more central. Piaka is going to spot the run, is he? Is he going to shoot from here? And for God's sake, flipping heck, Rashford now. They've got more men forward than us. We're going to miss that tackle, and Mata's going to score. It frustrates me. It really does. They play the exact same way we anticipate them to. I do what I can, you know, to prevent shit like that happening. Can't do anything about that from a tactical perspective. Man United are really good going forward on the counter-attack. You know, I'll give them credit where it's due. You can tell how well they're assembled, and everyone knows their role as soon as they win the ball back like that. But just the way that that ball was lost in the middle of the park is so easily avoidable. Hoof it back to Szczesny, we're going 1-0 up at half-time. Now, Andre Gray could have come on, but he is still kind of injured. How are we going to change this game now? Just don't really feel like this is maybe the game that Nano will really make a difference in. So what I'm going to do is actually bring on Yang up front for Nano and keep things the way they currently are. What we're going to do is try and revert back to the norm, up our tempo a little bit, and most importantly, see if Man United end up changing much themselves. Now, it is kind of interesting that Hazard and Shaw are both on yellow cards. A part of me is going to do this. The only issue is Barbosa. He is left-footed, actually. Yeah, and he's pretty good when it comes to trying to cut inside. We have to make sure he doesn't completely neglect his defensive duties, though, because if he does, that'll be Hazard in trouble, or causing us trouble, rather. But, you know, hopefully just cutting inside caused Luke Shaw some problems. Very disappointed in the manner in which we conceded that goal. 62 minutes in, and we probably need to start bringing on some fresh legs. The question is, where are these fresh legs going to come from? We're going to bring on Varjek on the right-hand side. The only issue is that Varjek isn't the best defensively, and that's the side that Hazard's coming down on. So a part of me would rather keep Varela there. Oh, this is a tough decision, this. Right, I'm not going to change the defence, actually. Augustinson's looking motivated. I'll keep that the way it is. Barbosa has not exactly lit the world on fire as of yet. Yang's going to go out on this right-hand side, where he's grabbed most of his goals so far this season, We're going to move Piaka central and then bring on Matthias Kunz. Bags of pace on this lad. Should be able to make somewhat of a significant difference. Douglas hasn't actually had the best of games, and I think it's Nuno Sousa who has our highest pass completion, and I feel like that composure and that ability would be very useful for us right now. I'm going to take a gamble and switch these guys to fullback just to see if and see if we can get a little bit more width from them. If we do end up drawing this game, it won't be the end of the world, and Arsenal drop points because they lost against Watford, so a point could actually be a decent result. But given that this is our home tie, you know, I'd really like to get the win. Pogba has actually been substituted off, which means Schneiderlin and Saul's been now moved to the slightly more creative role, which isn't really surprising. Hysaj is going to throw the ball to Shaqiri. Hysaj whips the ball in. It's a good clearance from Niang. And is that Lindelof on the left-hand side? No, he's playing centre-back, but this is nice. Kunz wins the ball back. Important that he... Wow, he's just taken on 4 Man United players. It's still Kunz. Oh, my God. That commentator says that would have been some goal. It's a shame, really. He could have squared it across and we probably would have scored. Sousa to Augustinsson. Can we now whip the ball in? We certainly can. Oh, my God. Kunz hits the post. Now, credit where it's due to David De Gea there. You know, he got a hat. Oh, no. Varela, don't get sent off, mate. Right, this is where... Oh, we made all three of our subs. Oh, God. For God's sake. You just know United are going to win this. El Sayed, regen comes on. Bernadeschi, burst of pace, whips it in. Oh, for God's sake. For God's sake. Flipping heck. United are so OP on this. We're just going to have to throw everything forward now. It's frustrating because we played well. I feel like we should have taken that lead. You know, we take that lead, get men behind the ball, and we'd have been good to go. We're hoping for the best now, I guess. We still have a few minutes to go, and we've. What is he doing? Was Volkvis? Did he just go for a cheeky moonwalk? Dun 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 dun. That's the best thing I've seen in the match engine for years. Go on, Kunz. Give that to Kunz. And play through Niang. Piaka. It's going to find Rog. We're literally throwing so many men forward right now. Whip it in. There's no one there. Whip it in again. Oh, for God's sake. What? He kicked it against Augustinsson's face and it went out. David De Gea has won this game for Man United. I don't know how that didn't go down as a clear-cut opportunity either. What a save from De Gea. I mean, I know Piaka's injured and all that. I think it was an Andre Gray moment. You know, he would have finished that. Not the result I wanted, to be honest. There's a lot of football to be played. There is, you know, we're on the same amount of points. And even after this loss, if we had a slightly better goal difference than they did, we'd still be top of the Premier League. But it's one of them games where you have to win. You have to win. But like I said, last season, at this point, we beat them and thought, right, what an important few points. And it didn't really mean much in the end because there's so much football to be played. But I'm not going to lie, Man United's form has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I'm not sure now, they are going to need to cock up somewhere. And if they've not cocked up against us, they're in the EFL Cup semi-final and, of course, they're in the Champions League as well. Now, if you look at this, the last 3 fixtures could prove to be incredibly difficult, you know. And if Chelsea can bring in a decent manager, then it makes you wonder. It really does. Now, we still have to play Liverpool in the last game of the season. All I'm saying is the last time we played Liverpool in the last game of the season, we lost and still won the Premier League. Now, that might not be the last time, but that obviously we won the Premier League at Anfield in 94-95, didn't we? We have a slightly easier Champions League tie. It is going to be one hell of an ending to the season. Are we finally going to win the Premier League? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. January time, transfer window time. I'll see you guys for the Spurs game. I don't think we'll sign anyone. I don't think our finances will let us sign anyone, which is a shame because you just know United are going to go out and splash 80 million on someone who probably will end up making the difference at the end of the day. See you next time.